when I was painting a big mural last year, and when I go into these things, I get tunnel vision. Like, okay, I'm so focused. I'm not really thinking about anything else except bringing this to completion. And so with that, there are logistics that I tend to miss or like overlook, right?
Like, oh, my kids need to eat. What?
Or like,
you guys got cereal? You guys
I know,
got milk?
exactly. The ramen.
Yeah.
You know, ramen and eggs. But I think for me, the biggest thing is asking for help. You know, and I think I get that from my mom.
Oh, really?
A lot, yes. Like, she just wants to do everything on her own because, one, if you can't meet her expectations, she's gonna get mad, right? She'll get disappointed.
Like most Hmong moms.
I'm the same.
Yeah. I've become my mother.
I have so in so many ways, yes. But yeah, like it's crazy, like how much of my mom comes through me, you know? And so, yeah, so for me, I think it's like asking for help, because when I was working on the mural, I didn't want to ask my husband for help at all. And he saw that I was struggling because I was operating
like on the mural or just like
the lift,
okay.
like leveling the lift. There were like these huge boards.
Was this the one that was like the side of the wall of the building? Yeah. I mean,
it's not far from here. It's not far from here.
It's huge. Yeah.
I mean, like, I'm like the sole proprietor of like operating the lift. I'm in charge of like all my supplies, my paints. Good thing there was actually a fire department right next door. Because one time I almost like crashed down.
No.
Yeah. I was on top of it was an arbor, and I totally forgot because I was so into painting that by the time I came down, I didn't realize that, oh my gosh, I have to unextend my cab. Yeah. And so, yeah. And then also like the leveling.
Did the fire guys come help you or what?
They did.
Oh, so nice.
The whole crew came out.
St. Paul's best.
8 of them.
St. Paul's best.
Only to find out that I was an idiot and the controller fell because I panicked. I accidentally switched on the safety, so I couldn't get it to move. No. So I was like this on top of the arbor. And I was like, oh my gosh. I was doing a time lapse with my cell phone.
Is this all recorded?
Yes.
That's awesome. You got to release it. You're like, you got to release it on TikTok. Like when the St. Paul Fire Department comes and helps you out.
Yes.
Because they're the neighbor.
They were really helpful because there was 2 people walking by and I was just like, help. I was on top of the arbor. I'm like, help.
Sorry, I laughed because you're safe now.
Yes. They came and knocked. I was like, can you guys go next door and see if they can bring me a ladder, please? And they did. They went next door. Yeah. All of a sudden, the whole crew came around. They were like, are you okay? Yeah. Do you need medical attention? I'm like, I'm good. I just need a ladder. And then, like, they were keeping me calm. Trained professionals, right? In situations of
hey, not all heroes wear capes, you know?
Exactly. And so one of the guys said, is your safety on? And I was like...
Oh, that was it? It was just...
I was like, thank you so much for joining me on my idiocracy.
Yeah. You're like, dibs on a mural in your station. Yes. It's on me. Yes. Like, my heroes. That's what you write down. My heroes.
Yes, it was pretty cool. Yeah.
Cool. So, and where's this painting at?
It is at In Progress, which is... an amazing resource, nonprofit resource ran by Chris Sorensen. She provides a space where, you know, people who don't have access to, let's say, digital photography or like the equipment are welcome to go and have mentors who can teach them things. And she's just been a very integral part of my year last year, like learning her work style, learning her patience and her... she's just an amazing woman. I just love her. I love her so much.
That's amazing. So we kind of just dove right in, right?
Yeah,
to some of your stuff.
absolutely.
But here's the deal. Give me your background. Like, was, you know, like going into the arts, was that the pathway for you? You know, where did you start? Family background? How about all that stuff?
Sure.
Stuff that all the listeners right now are wanting to hear.
Absolutely, yes. I grew up one of 7 kids.
Like most Hmong families?
Yes, lots of us. There's a bunch of kids. I mean, like when we went to McDonald's when we were kids, like we never were allowed to go because we would take up like a section, right? When we go to McDonald's, if we were to go. And it's also like, we joke about it, but it's like one of those clown cars, you know, where like, no, like
Like people kept coming out. Oh, we did not like do the whole like seatbelt thing right.
Oh,
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you're carrying another sibling on top of you. And
you know how like in the back where it's only made for like 3 people?
Yes.
Yeah.
There were 5 people.
Oh,
yeah.
Easily 5.
Yeah, so one of 7 kids. I'm the third, second daughter though. And I grew up in Fresno, California. Up until I was 5, my dad moved us to across the country to North Carolina.
Okay.
Where everything was completely different from what we were used to.
Was there family there?
Yes.
Okay.
Both his older brothers were already established in North Carolina, and I mean, there were a lot of like political stuff too behind the reason why we had to rush and just move up and move, because I think they were decommissioning a program that wasn't going to be available anymore to help immigrants.
In North Carolina?
In North Carolina, okay. Yep.
And so your dad wanted to get there for that?
Yeah, so we all got in his white Chevy van with peach curtains.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. And he drove us across the country to North Carolina. And it was an experience because
all 7 of you guys?
All 7 of us.
Damn.
My grandparents were living with us in California, but they moved first to live with my dad's younger brother.
So your uncles and them down there?
Exactly, yeah. And so, so that's my family.
Where in North Carolina did you guys land?
Morganton, North Carolina. Okay. It's about an hour and a half east of Charlotte, or west of Charlotte, and then about an hour and a half west of Asheville. So it's it's right kind of in the middle of the 2 major cities. But it was much different than here.
Fresno? Oh, is that here?
Too.
Yeah.
I remember the first week I moved to Minnesota, and we were out on the streets, and every other car was a Hmong person. I was so shook. Yeah.
Because like you're going from the south to here. Yeah,
when you see another Hmong person in the south, it's like a Sasquatch sighting.
Yeah. I know. Or you like just even see like, or there's Sasquatch down there too. But those mountains, dude. Yes. The Appalachian Mountains, down all the way down there. But like even, you're right. Like even seeing Asians,
Yes.
and you're like, wait, what are you? And you just like, whoa. Are you real?
Are you real?
Yeah.
And so we grew up in a very small town. The arts, it was, there were a lot of, I've noticed, I mean, in retrospect, that there's a lot of nepotism in art.
Oh, completely.
Yes. Yeah. You're only bringing up people that are familiar with you. I always knew I was good at art because it was my way of expressing myself. And I've talked about this a lot with other Hmong women too. It's about not having a voice and being told you can't speak and just, you have to assimilate. You just be quiet, keep your head down, no problems, right? Don't be controversial. Don't be a problem. Yeah, exactly, right? And so with that, I felt like the only way I could express myself was through drawing. And so I've been drawing and illustrations, mainly portraits and people, ever since I was able to hold a pencil, like maybe back in preschool. And my dad really encouraged me. Every time he would see me drawing, he would, point out, hey, what about this and what about that? And it would get me thinking, right? One of the best gifts he's ever given me as a kid was just a ream of printer paper. I protected that thing like it was gold. Like I drew on every empty spot on it until it was all gone. And so drawing has always been a very integral part of my life. And then then in my 20s, I started having babies, and I totally forgot about art.
Okay.
I put it aside because it was just considered child's play. It's not something that you can earn a living.
Completely, yeah.
It's not something that's, comparable to those admirable roles like a doctor or a lawyer. And so I kind of kept it aside. I put it in the back burner. I was working a corporate job, also raising babies. Up until
you were up in the cities now, right?
Yes. I was already in St. Paul.
Okay.
Yes. I came to St. Paul in 2003 when I met a boy who's my husband now. 20 years. Shout out to Nate Reiter.
Yeah. It's cool, Nate. And you know, that's awesome, but it's like, oh, it's a boy. Mm.
It's a boy, yes. And yeah, it was like the best decision I ever made, because I was married traditionally at age 17. And I was so immersed in the culture, and I felt like, again, I didn't have a voice. What I said and how I felt didn't really matter. It was just going with emotions to keep everyone happy. And I knew I wasn't happy. And so when I met Nate, he really helped me process my thoughts about, as an individual, that I had the right to make decisions because I'm the one living with them.
Can I ask a question about this? Like, Nate's a white dude.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, like, we'll just throw that out there.
Absolutely. Yeah.
he's like the whitest of white dudes, which I love Nate, by the way. Love you, Nate. Love you. If you're listening to this, Nate, I love you, brother. Do you think that you would have been able to have that freedom, feel that freedom of expressing yourself and all that stuff if it was a Hmong dude? That comes along with the Hmong, like traditional Hmong, whatever, in-laws and all that crap. You want to call that whatever, you know?
No, absolutely not.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I know exactly what you're saying. I think that throughout the years, there's been a lot of progression in the Hmong Min community, wanting to be more progressive about things and mindful about things and educated. But back then, it really wasn't. It was just either you're someone's wife and property, and you had to fulfill all of these things, duties.
Yeah,
you know,
or you're betrothed.
Yes.
You're betrothed as a daughter. It's like the joining of the clans, you know?
Yes.
Yeah.
And it was basically getting up in the morning, early morning. And to this day, I'm still traumatized by
Oh, really?
I hate it.
Really?
Yeah.
That's so interesting. So translate to our English listeners. What does that mean?
So 中道 means that you are rinsing and cleaning the green onions and cilantro, which are very key ingredients in
the herbs
everything. Yes, the herbs that we use in everything. We put that in everything, really. And that was part of like the daughter's job is to rinse all of those things, wash all the greens.
I would say. That was the expectation. Yep.
In the cold, it could be. You mean like you're working with like a headlamp, you know?
Yeah.
Like.
So let me ask you something about that. It's very like when you say that to me, I'm like, interesting, because when I smell, you know, a jotsu or you know or that all those herbs, I just think pho right away.
Yes.
Like that goes in my mind. But for you, like doing that motion of, you know, cleaning and rinsing that takes you back to that bad memory.
Trauma.
Yeah. What, like, is still today or have you used art to kind of redeem that?
I have. Absolutely. I actually
shoot,
have.
man.
I'm so glad that you mentioned that.
Yeah, because I feel like, spoiler alert, you know, because I know you love what you do, you know?
I do.
And so, like, the moment you said that, I'm like, interesting. Like, that's a...
Yeah, I actually had a background of just, it's like I wanted to make a wallpaper of just the danjutsu, like the green onion, cilantro marrying each other. As a matter of fact, my tattoo is...
I know. I noticed that.
Yeah, it's green onion and cilantro because it's such a key part of Hmong cooking. But I actually got it at the most mature stage. So it's more coriander and allium, which are both beautiful plants, even at the most mature state. And it's still usable too. You know how like cilantro overgrows?
Yep.
That's what our parents used to make guatsal, right?
Yep.
It was like the best.
Yeah, the
the
cilantro roots. Yeah, that's the best part right there.
Yes.
Yep.
So
you grew up going through that process, getting married, you know, with my boy Nate, our boy Nate, you know. He's gonna love this.
I know.
And then had babies.
3 kids.
3 kids, and then doing your corporate job.
And it wasn't until I left my corporate job in 2013, I want to say, was when I started picking back up on art. Like I was starting to figure out who I was as a person. Because for all of my 20s, I was just mom. I didn't really have an identity other than, you know, I'm working a corporate job. I'm moving up the ladder. I'm coming home and taking care of the kids. And my husband, you know, was also very helpful. I mean, like we were always a team. And I think that's what that's why we've been together for so long. It's like we make a really good team, regardless of any outside influences or even like turmoil that happens naturally.
Yeah.
We've stuck together. Even if those weren't good times, we still knew that.
It's kind of like you're my ride or die.
Yes.
Like, this is
all the time. Yes. And so I started picking back with art, and I met Kathy Mwachupao.
Yeah.
Who is an amazing woman in my life.
She's incredible.
She has encouraged. She's the sole reason why I got back into art. She was always very encouraging. Because at that point in my life, I felt like, oh, well, you know, let the little kids like pursue their dreams. Like I'm already a mom.
Yeah.
No one wants to see the stuff that I'm doing because it's uninteresting, you know?
I think there's also this thing of like, especially kind of coming out of that stage, you know, where you're like, someone.
Yes, someone, yes.
Yep, someone.
Someone. Like, what do you have to say? And like, who's going to listen to you?
Yeah.
Who's going to be interested in your art, right?
Yeah.
And so it was a very slow start. But with the continued encouragement from Kathy, and then she connected me with the Hmong Arts community with Chat at the time.
Yeah.
It was so small. It was so small. And then I met Ka, Lee, and then I met so many amazing people in the arts, in the Hmong community that I didn't know existed. And so I started taking it more seriously when people would come to me and ask me for things like, hey, can you do this? Like, yeah, I can do that. I'll draw it. Okay, cool. Then I realized, oh my gosh, I can get paid to do this.
I know, it's interesting. Like as Hmong kids, like when we figured that out, we're like, wait, and it blew my mind for me when we're doing some stuff and we're getting paid for it, and I'm like, wait, I feel bad. Like I don't know about you, how you felt, but I felt really bad. Like I was like, I would just do this too, you know.
You're right.
But it's like when my agent says, you don't tell them that, and I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Yeah. It's hard to put substance into what you do, or like a meaning into what you're doing when you're not intentional about it. So once I became more intentional about my art, like who am I making this for? It's really parts of myself that I pour into my art, my story, whatever is personal to me, and ultimately figured out that what makes good art is when people are able to connect with it. And so I started including more of my roots, because at first I found myself just drawing the normal, like pretty white women face, westernized faces. And one day I got really angry because, I don't know, it was just at myself, really. Like, why am I doing this? Like, and then I realized it was the only thing available in school, like reference-wise, when you look at it. And so I made it a point from 2016 on that I will only illustrate Hmong women faces and study the Hmong women face. And I can do it in my sleep now. I know what the features are, like the relationship between the eyes and the nose. We're different from Lao women. You could tell the difference between like Cambodian women and Thai. Exactly. Yep. We all have a different look. To the outsider, we all look the same, right? But there are those tiny little details that no one else can get right. And that's why, I mean, even when I see people draw Hmong women with westernized features, my blood pressure goes up so high, and I have to like zip it, lock it, and put it in my pocket.
So zip and lock and put it in your pocket. I'm gonna use that one. Do you tell that to your kids? Because
they taught me that.
Oh, really? Yeah. Gen Z kid. I'm actually gonna use that one too. Zip it up. Yeah. Who do you see drawing these Hmong women with Western features? Like, who do you?
Hmong men artists. Male, mostly male. And I think that it's.
Why do you think that?
Because it's rampant in like the comics community, where it's women are overly sexualized, like thick thighs and tiny waist, big old boobs, and it's like, this is not realistic. Like, if you're gonna draw Hmong women, it needs to be represented correctly. Yeah. And so representation is huge, huge. And I've learned that throughout the years. It was like the last thing that I ever thought about when I first started putting my art out there and sharing it with the world. And like you said, to someone, like you're shy about it. You don't feel worthy, right? You feel like an imposter. And so it took a lot of years and practice and failing and triumphs in order to figure out what direction I wanted to take my art.
Did you feel like there was two folds of Tsamoa? Like the first one is you're Hmong and you had to explain why you're here. Like what it means to be Hmong. Like you had to explain all of that out. And the next thing was, well, now you're a Hmong artist, so explain why there should be space for you to be an artist as a Hmong person. You know, so I don't know, like when you were saying that, automatically I think is like, it feels tougher because there's just two levels of Tsamoa, you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Where it's not just like, where there are like, you talk to, you know, any, you know, majority cultural artists or white artists, there's that like, you know, that like, ooh, what's Tsamoa kind of deal with it. But it's just like, well, it's art. And I don't, you know, I don't feel like I belong in this space. But I feel like for Hmong people too, we have that, but we're also Hmong. We're also refugees. We're also Mbano. We're also, you know, all those words that we've been trained to hear, and sometimes it's been set before us.
Yes. Yeah, you're right about that. There's always I call it a 90-second elevator speech.
Yep. Like it's, you got to pitch yourself.
You do.
Yep.
You have to explain, okay, here we go. And it just became like a natural thing because I grew up in the South, in North Carolina, where no one knew what Hmong people were.
So this is the one I saw. So pretend this is the elevator speech. I'd be like, you know, like pretend I'm a Mika guy, right?
Yes.
And I'd be like, oh, see, you're Hmong. What's a Hmong? Right? That's the question, right? And then you do that. Cool. So were you born here? You're like, you know, whatever. You go through that. Okay. Well, how did you get here? Why did your parents
Laos?
Are you Laotian? Oh, like for me, you know, I was born in the refugee camp in Thailand. Oh, Thailand? Oh, so do you speak Thai?
Yeah.
Yep. The next thing is like, do you like pad Thai? I love pad Thai. Let me tell you about my favorite pad Thai place. I'm like, wait, how did we get here?
That happens more often
I know.
than not.
You're like, I thought we were talking about art. Now we're talking about the best pad Thai place on university. What?
It's bound to happen. And instead of letting it bother me, you know, as I get older and I go through these experiences, I embrace it. And I look at it as an opportunity to
teachable moment.
Teach people about these things, because I look at it from the other end. What if you had no idea what this person is or what their background is? Of course, either the people react in one of two ways. Either they're curious and they ask you questions respectfully, hopefully, or they just ignore you because they're afraid of you, because they don't know who you are and what you are. So it's best if they just, you know, don't talk to you because they might say the wrong thing, or they're really not that curious about it and they'll just assume things. Yeah,
they want to define what in their world.
Yes, what's familiar to them.
Absolutely. I felt that with my buddy Jamal. He's a chef. And he's
I know who he is.
Oh, Jamal Hashish.
Yes, he's gone places.
I know. So my boy Jamal, I remember the first time we like hung out and talked, and I was like, bro, I'm just gonna ask you a bunch of questions because I just don't know the answer. You know, and it was really cool because it was in this aha moment I had where I'm like, I bet you this is how Mika people feel around Hmong people.
Exactly.
You know, and I'm like, I'm just gonna be very frank, and this is not to offend you. I just I have some question. He's like, oh, cool. What's up, brother? Let's do it.
Did you meet him through Relish?
Well, I knew him before that.
Before that?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. We've done a little project stuff here and there together. Yeah.
I met so many amazing chefs from the show.
You painted all those.
I painted all of them.
I'm so sorry.
That's how that was like our first project together. Like project.
Yeah. But I think we met before.
Before that,
The Good Acre.
A Good Acre, yeah.
The Good Acre. Yeah.
Which I've gone on to do work for the Good Acre. Yeah. And it was pretty interesting how it all like fell into place too, you know, like watching like Lecha Cunningham go on the up and up trajectory Ann Ahmed. Oh my gosh. All of the chefs. Brian Yazzie.
Yeah.
That was like all, I think that was all season 1 and 2, right?
I think so. Yeah. I don't remember anymore. Sorry, Brittany and Amy.
Brittany and Amy are pretty amazing too.
Yeah, they are. They're amazing.
For just letting us do our thing.
Yeah.
And they even came to, Brittany came to my house and filmed me in my garden.
Yeah, there's a clip on it.
Yeah.
Go in.
Yes.
TBT.
Oh my
Relish. Go watch it.
Go watch it. It's on
Channel
digital.
2.
Yeah.
And digital. We just all plugging the stuff projects we've done. That's awesome.
Pretty cool though.
Yeah, it was. And I think that was such a fun project. And it's still going. I mean, about a couple months here, we're going to film some more, so yeah, so I'm really excited about it. But it's really, to me, the thing that really stands out about you as, I've known you for a while, so we've known each other. But the one thing that I really is the first word I think of is admiration. I just admire you. Like,
thank you. Yeah,
you are someone who says, "Look, here's the status quo, and I could just be here and do the status quo." Which there's nothing wrong with that, But I think you have slowly just keep pushing those limits. Keep pushing.
I don't even know where that comes from sometimes. Like
that comes from your mom.
Absolutely. Yes, I would attribute it, a lot to my mom.
Yeah.
She always thinks of the best ideas, but as far as execution, when she doesn't have the full support needed, she just gives up on it. But I know she has great ideas. We've talked so much about so many things. And like for an example, I was telling her about how Nava can be in an icy form. Like imagine it's like Nava in a tube in the summertime, and the kids will just snip it off, and it's just frozen Nava, right?
Yeah.
And as an
like
ice,
popsicle,
like a popsicle.
Yeah.
So I designed the label.
Yeah.
I bought.
Yeah, send that over to us. We might have to use that plan. There's a lot of things where it's like, see, let's not talk about this right now. Copyright, bam.
Because I mean,
we're gonna talk to Target about that one.
Because there's not a whole lot of desserts in the Hmong culture.
Hmong there's
cuisine.
no dessert.
There's no dessert.
No, it's like, here's an orange. Yeah. I was trying to explain that to my Mika friends. They're like, so what did you guys eat for dessert? I don't know. My mom would give me a banana sometimes. Or if like the dessert isn't really dessert, it's just like, here's some dry wafer that has a hint of sugar. What?
Gross. Or the coconut crackers.
Oh,
that's
man.
like salty.
Or the shrimp crackers. You're like, what? Why does it taste like
the one with
old
the
shrimp?
ridges?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I can't. I don't eat those anymore to this day. I don't know.
But hey, you get the rabbit Tootsie Rolls, the white rabbit.
Oh yeah, those are the best. Oh, 可能说 the one in the gold and red wrap.
Yes, don't be fooled by the wrappers, but it's like a hard candy.
Yes, it's a hard candy.
Yeah.
Yes.
But never, and it's probably like 10 years old. Like, you know what I'm saying? That
Yeah.
like never goes bad. But it's like all that stuff where it's just like, hey, here you go.
Yeah.
We
didn't have dessert. So I came up with the packaging, I came up with the advertisement, I bought her all of the supplies, and I instructed her on what to do. And then she ended up putting it at my uncle's Hmong store in Morganton. And it didn't sell. Mainly because no one knew about it. No one, people were like, okay, well, there's, good humor bars next to it.
Yeah.
We're going to go with that because we're familiar with that, But I think it would, at the market, there's a market for it here.
Yeah, again, like I said, when the cameras and everything's are off and the microphone's off, we're going to talk about this. I got a guy in Target, and we can this will work, trust me.
I think that's what I enjoy most about talking with you. Yeah, we fuel each other.
Yeah.
We come up with these ideas, and it's never ending.
Yeah.
It's never ending. And it's just we share the same enthusiasm for food and art and just life in general, really.
Yeah, I think there's the intermingling of it, I'm going to boast about you some more, but what you have taught me is to think deeper into food, so even, okay, so this is, I'm going to be bold and I'll just say it. You are one of the cornerstones to the Hmong culture. I completely agree with that because of this. Think about this. Okay. Our culture, everything's oral tradition. How do you know what zhao to plant? How do you know what herbs to mix with what? It's, mom taught daughter, grandma taught mom, who then taught kid. How do you know how to langai? How do you know how to tomboa? Dad teaches, what son, right? And on down. Completely. What happens when those elders of ours start passing away and they start getting, to the point where it's like Luluchi work now, they're not there anymore. It's like a hard drive that's corrupted, and you can't go uncorrupted. It's just like, shoot, we have to save as much as can. What you have done, I firmly believe, is you have collected an archive of all these, like Hmong Zhao, food, and, just going out to your garden and painting all these things and all these different, herbs. And then you give, like, here's the Hmong name, here's the English equivalent name, here's the scientific Latin name to it. And you've created an archive here where then when people look back, they'll be like, oh, this is what it looks like, because at the end of the day, you could just take a picture and, whatever. But what you've done is you have like taken yourself and you've put yourself into your work, that, your kapong, picture that, like, by the way, everybody in our noodle shop wants that at their house. They're all like, dude, how do we get that to our house? It's like, and when I say everybody, I'm talking about the Hmong kids, the black kids, the Mexican kid, and the white kids. They all want
amazing.
it. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So can you imagine your art that represents our food, our people, our culture, our heritage, all in it, and it's hanging at the house of, a white family. And do you know what I'm saying? And I say that with all due respect, not like, oh, just putting up art, Hmong art for the sake of Hmong art, but actually being like, that means something to me.
Yes, there are stories. Yes. There are always stories behind a lot of the pieces that I do. Personal stories, and also just, I don't know, sometimes I feel like if I just put my art out there without a caption, people don't really understand what it's about. Yeah. So I always have to have a little personal story to go with it. I do recall you texting me one day. This was like a couple years ago. Oh boy. When you asked me,
did I have a few adult drinks?
No, I didn't think so. It was in the morning. Yeah. You got some explaining to do.
Cook's life's tough sometimes. Okay.
No, you asked me about identification of chokai.
Yeah.
And I just so happened to like be in my garden at the time, and I started taking photos, and then just like
you sent it to me too. I was like, hey, weirdo, like not like you don't have to go right now. You're like, no, I'm out in my garden. Yeah.
And I wrote down everything. Yeah. I had to fact check with my mom about like the different types of herbs, and then I also found out that, like, say Joe Pie weed, that's one of the Hmong herbs. It's called Ntiv. It's Ntiv. And it is actually native to Minnesota. It grows out, like when we were camping one year in the Grand Marais area, or along Devil's Track. We were just walking by, and Nate is just a genius when it comes to like gardening and plants. Yeah. And so he just like looked over and he said, "Hey, isn't that what you guys put in the Hmong chicken soup?"
Did you go, "What do you mean, you guys?" Yeah. You're part of this, bro.
You people.
Yeah. What do you mean, you people? It's your people too, bro.
But yeah, and then I looked at it. I took a closer look. I smelled it, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, it is." So then there's another plant, goldenrod, that grows a native plant. Yep. And it's like it's crazy, like how even like the irisine, the pink one, the pink and purple one.
Oh yeah.
Irisine. That is a decorative plant. And so if you told someone that you eat that, they'd be kind of weirded out by it. But it's got medicinal properties. Mugwort has medicinal properties.
Not the best name, but I get it. Some of these names, dude, like honestly, for some of these herbs that we use, for like the Mika names, you're just like, a churl toll, or like, like dripping snot. It's like, yeah, I'm going to put dripping snot herbs in.
There's a Japanese flag.
Oh, really?
It's like the thin-looking lemongrass plant.
Okay, yep.
It's got like a lemony taste to it, like a citrus taste to it.
Better names. They need better names.
Yeah, better names.
Like Angel's Wings or something.
But then in Hmong, though, you would find it interesting that it's named after symbols or things that it looked like. Like for Gotte Kai.
Yeah,
Gotte
Oh, yeah.
Duck feet.
Yep.
Because
it literally is duck feet.
because the leaves are shaped like duck feet, webbed feet, right? Or like there's so many different things that, it's so interesting because when I talk to my mom, we could
mangoes? Well, you know what mangoes called?
No.
Xee Reiter.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah. Xee Reiter. Oh my
Which
gosh,
translates to fruit with twisted toe. Right?
Yes.
Xee Reiter, like, yeah. And if you look the mango and like how you look at a mango, it looks like a toe that's crooked, like a curved toe. Curved toe.
And you have you also realized that we only have.
Do you know what kiwi is in Hmong?
No.
What it translates to?
What is it?
It's translated to hairy monkey testicles. That's what kiwis. That's a kiwi name. That's the name for kiwis. Which that makes sense. I get it.
Wait, monkey zilia?
Yeah, nong zilia.
Oh, nong zilia.
Yeah. That's what my dad said. That's what they called it.
That's
Kiwis.
So cool. I had no idea.
But it makes complete sense. It makes we're kind of whatever. We'll just talk about it. It's like our language is made from what it looks like.
Yes, descriptive. Yeah, just descriptive.
So the mountain, and you could probably talk to this with your grandparents as well. But the mountain that my dad was born and grew up on, it's called Gochi. That's
sheep.
Yeah.
Goat
turd, goat dung.
Goat poop.
Yeah. And I always wondered, I'm like, Dad, why is the mountain that you grew up on called Gochi? And my theory is it's because of the shape of the mountain. It looks like a heap of
steamy turd.
Yeah, steamy goat turd.
Oh my gosh, that's so cool.
That makes sense.
It does. And that's why, that's why I think it's so important to understand what type of art you're putting out there. People often ask, what is Hmong art? Hmong art really isn't just throwing coils on a design and calling it a day and calling it Hmong art. There are so many symbols that have meanings, and that was the way that our ancestors were able to get around, because it was a map. It was a map. The water, the snails, anything shaped like it.
Elephant's foot.
Exactly. Yeah.
Chicken eye.
Chicken eye.
Yeah. And even when we first started Union Hmong Kitchen, the symbol we use is for unity or home.
See, and I think that's why when we ran into that controversial issue last year of a non-Hmong person wanting to paint a tribute to the Hmong people, that's why it got me so heated. It got me really passionate about it, because normally I wouldn't speak up about these things. I'm just let it right out, because it's not vibing with me, and I need this, having creative energy takes a lot.
Yeah. With that issue that we were both in part of that issue there. And I remember I just said to the person, I'm like, dude, go talk to C. If she thumbs ups it, then it's good.
I'm so glad that you did that. And
I really did. I just felt like, dude, go talk to her. If she says it's cool, thumbs up, then we'll let this artist guy do it. But if she's like, no, thumbs down, then we're just going to go with her. I kind of just said I said to the group, I'm like, I'm behind her. So whatever she says.
That's good. I'm so glad.
So I connected you guys. I'm really glad that didn't happen.
Yep. I'm so appreciative of the fact, that you asked me. And as part of the art world, I feel like there's a responsibility that you have to have when it comes to painting images, especially for a certain group of people. Yeah. If I were asked to paint a tribute to a Native American tribe, I would not feel comfortable doing it. Yeah. I would immediately say, hey, there are plenty of Native artists out there, talented Native artists that want to do this.
And it comes to what we were saying before, right? Representation matters.
Representation. It's all about representation.
Matter. It's about getting people to the table. It's not about just filling up the table. Yeah. But it's getting the right people to the table.
Or it's not always just checking off the boxes. I mean, my response right away to this person was, and I was a little brass, I was pretty
but I think you had
abrasive.
Every right to be. Yeah, but I think you had every right to be.
I mean, it's still professional, but it was pretty abrasive because, I mean, I woke up coming in hot that morning.
Yeah. I remember on the email chain, you were very, like, matter of fact, like upfront, like, we're not going to BS around this. Like, this is really
we're not going to do this. Like, you know, just because you spoke with the Hmong person, that doesn't give you permission.
Yeah.
And I basically told her that it requires a conversation over time.
Yeah.
With the community. Yeah. I don't represent. Yeah. I'm not the sole representation of the community. And, you know, for her to come back and, like, fight me on it and give me pushback. Yeah. That, to me, I was so taken aback by that. Like, what are you saying, lady?
I felt like it was one of those where it's like, hey, can't you see we're doing good for you?
Yes.
Like, you know, to you. That's what she was saying to you?
Yes.
And you're like...
And I said, no thanks.
You're like, but can't you see this is not doing good for us? It's actually kind of setting us back. You know?
You're absolutely right.
I think perspective, like, her perspective is like, well, I don't get why this is such a big deal. You know, and again, it's that whole representation. It's that whole, like, are you hearing us, you know, or are you listening? Because, you know, I mean, you're a mom, you get it, you know? It's like when you say something to your kids, like, did you hear me or did you listen to me? That's very important.
Another thing, too, that one of my good friends, she said to me when I was telling her about the situation, she's so right about this. People are not used to Asian women saying no. Right? Because we're supposed to be, there's like a stereotype. There's always like a perception of
that's submissive,
yes. Docile. Like, you're just gonna go with the flow. You're not gonna, I mean, from the very beginning when we were talking about not having a voice. And so when they find out that someone, a Hmong woman, is willing to stand up and say, hey, this is not right. We're not doing this. They fight you because they're not used to being told no, right? And, like, they should just have the right and freedom to do whatever they want. And so I think that, you know, I mean, I talk a lot about this too. It's just, I love it. And I've spun it to, you know, to fit my narrative as far as, like, when people automatically, when they meet me, and any Asian woman really, she's quiet, she's shy, she doesn't have much to say. But no, when I open my mouth sometimes and I speak on things that I'm very passionate about, you can't get me to shut up, you know? And you're going to be shocked. Like, okay, you came in with the perception that I'm this type of person, but it's completely opposite of what you thought. So, you know, I look at that as an advantage, really, instead of, like, focusing on, like, oh, well, they must think that I'm this person, so I'm just not going to say anything, you know? Nope.
I think it's something my dad really taught me about, like, hey, if you want to know how to get ahead in life, or kind of more like negotiation and stuff like that, because he's a Mekong, you know, and stuff like that. Yeah,
my dad was a Mekong too.
Yeah, and he's done that before, and, you know, and just representing family and stuff like that, right? You know, so we know what we're saying when we say that. And I remember watching my dad once, like, dude's powerful, like, his words, like, mean stuff, right? And he commands respect of the room. But he's, like, kind of quiet the whole time, and all the big talkers are talking. You know what I'm saying? They're, like, kind of, you know, like,
sounds
flexing.
like you're describing my dad too,
right?
Not a man of many words, but when he speaks up,
boom, that's what he does. And, like, he waited perfectly for everyone to get all their BS out of the way, and then, you know, everyone's like, okay, so, like, you know, they turn to him like, okay, so what are your thoughts? And he goes, are you guys ready? And then he lays it out, and then it's just like, boom, mic drop, and then, okay.
I love that.
You know, and it is such. You know, it's such I call it, like, a silent warrior. It's like, you let all the trash talking, all that stuff go. Let it ride, because, and I notice that with younger people, especially, like, in the Hmong culture, like, younger men who talk a lot, you know. And what I love is like, being around some of the older, seasoned Hmong men who've seen a lot more than these kids can ever talk about.
Yeah,
you know,
you're right.
And for me to glean off of that, you know, because there's, like, this richness in the history and the stories, and, you know, talking to my mom, having her tell the stories of what happened to them when she was a little girl, through the war, through the camps. Like, you hear it in their voice, you see it in their eyes, the pain, the hurt, the suffering. But the thing that I love the most is, the story doesn't end at pain and hurt. It ends with hope.
Yes.
And that hope is when she looks at my little niece and nephews looks at us. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Like, that's the hope. Like, all of this makes sense because of that hope. You know?
And, you know, I do remember a conversation we had about Hmonglish, like how your mom sometimes struggles to connect with the grandkids.
Yeah, because they don't speak Hmong. Yeah.
You know what's universal? Food.
Mm-hmm.
Phở, right? Kayo.
Yep.
All of these things. I mean, food really brings us together.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the things that I'm most passionate about. I mean, I wouldn't illustrate or paint food if I wasn't passionate about it. It wouldn't look the same. It wouldn't feel the same, right? But these are the things that I know, and deep in my soul, I know these things. And so, like, even herbs, I grow herbs because it keeps me on my feet. It keeps me real. It keeps me close to my heritage. Yeah. Even if I don't use it every day, I still have it in my yard, and it's a tradition almost, you know, that it's in honor of my mom. Yeah. Because she has always had, and even like she was shook when she saw my garden. She was like, you know how to plant all these things?
You're like, it's Nate.
Most of the time.
Yeah. Mom, it's that white dude that I married.
No, actually, I have my herb garden. It's very small, and it's the closest to the house because you know I'm not going down the hill. But he takes care of all the rest. So, yeah.
Got yourself a good man there.
Oh my gosh, he's amazing. He's so amazing with gardening, with everything. Yeah. He's so, I mean, I'm so lucky to have him in my life. And also, you know, he was also very interested in the Hmong culture. Yeah. When we first met, he was the type of guy that when we go to like the Hmong village, he would talk to the Nyatais, and they'll just be aunties and giggling like, you know.
Oh, how good is his Hmong? I gotta ask.
It used to be a lot better because we used to
use it, you lose it.
I'm the same way.
Dude, I'm gonna call him and we're just gonna speak Hmong.
You should. I think that he's just gonna be cheesing the whole time. Yeah.
So does he speak to your parents in Hmong or?
He tries to, and it's so funny. The last time my parents were in town, I actually just laughed to myself from the other room when I heard Nate and my mom having a conversation.
In Hmong?
Well, he's trying to speak broken Hmong to her, and then she's trying to speak broken English to him.
Oh,
but they understood each other.
Awesome. That is awesome.
It was amazing. It was so cool. And then they communicate that way, and it's always been that way. Even, you know, my grandma, when she was still alive, it was a couple years before she passed. But I remember bringing our kids, and they were very young. We brought them to North Carolina to visit my family for the very first time. And I remember my grandma, so my mom may kupon. Yeah. And we were all sitting, you know, in different places. You know, we're always everywhere. It's not just like one big table.
Do some Hmong family.
Yeah, like, you know, one kid's eating.
If Hmong families, we were all going to sit one table, it's like one of those like 30-seater tables. Do you know what I'm saying? Where it's like super long, like old school medieval time. You know what I'm talking about? Yes. That's what it is. Like, but it's
like
a
like platform, pretty much.
Yeah, it's like you get all these little chairs, and then you pull in these little like coffee table, and then that becomes
6 different chairs.
Yeah, you know how it works.
Yes. It's like the IKEA commercial, you know, when you're pulling out like 6 different types of cups, a plastic one, a glass one. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I remember
Sponsor us, IKEA.
You know, I still think about this, and it touches my heart so much. I remember my grandma watching my kids eating kupon. Yeah. And I'm the first one of my family that married outside of our race. And so she was just fondly watching them eat kupon, and she was so amazed. And she said to me, "Si, no kupon tia, minyo mikana." And you know, she just said, "Your little white mixed kids enjoy this food. They know how to eat this stuff.
Like your little American kids." Yeah.
And I thought, yeah, Grandma, I cook this stuff at home every day. You know, like all the time. And you know, pork and zhao, that was one of the dishes that Nate learned how to cook, and he has perfected it.
Ooh,
he's gonna have to cook it for you. He knows how to.
Let's go, Nate. Oh, we're like just throwing him around right now.
He knows how to tokota.
No way. Seriously? Okay.
He knows, like with the pork and greens, he knows the. No, he's not that. No, he's not that advanced yet.
I love how Mumblo is advanced. You know,
yeah, it is. It is. It's a science.
Yeah.
But with the pork and joe, I think it took him a while to get the ratio right because you don't want to use too much water and not enough meat because the meat is what flavors.
And depending also the cut of meat.
The cut of meat, yes. If there are bones, you're set. If it's like a really dry piece of like, I don't know.
If it's like
pork loin.
Yeah. If it's like the there's no fat in it, it's just like
yeah, it's gross.
Done. Yeah, ugh. But you need and my favorite is the neck bones.
Oh my god!
Because that's where you get all the cartilage.
Yes,
you get all the fattiness, and I personally think too that's like if you can get a pork head in there, boom, that's it's all about.
For your Mika concept, have you thought about like head cheese?
Oh, we have that on the menu.
Really?
We have
terrine?
Well, it's not terrine, but we have Lecha on the menu. We legit, and we're doing the old school too.
My gosh!
Like
do you add the pickled greens in there?
No, we just braise the Hmong mustard greens down. Like the way that my mom showed me, you just Hmong mustard green there, and you just braise it. And we're gonna throw in like all the pieces, trotters, heads.
See, that was one thing too that shocked me when I first moved here and I met my husband's family. They lived next door to Hmong people. Their neighbors were Hmong, and I remember one day we went over there.
By the way, we have a really funny connection with like your husband's family too.
Yeah, I know you do.
Know,
actually,
awesome.
Yes.
Yeah. Heidi.
They were Heidi Reiter.
Yeah.
We were just visiting, and the Hmong people next door, their neighbors, they brought over Lecha, which they had been cooking all day.
The jam.
I saw my mother-in-law eating Lecha in a bowl. Like she was just like picking at it and eating it. I was like, that looks so delicious.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
I'll tell you the truth. Like, about Lecha, because it's all the other parts, right? You just throw in there and
knuckles,
ginger, everything, right? And we just throw it in, whatever. And I was kind of like very like, ugh, I don't know, whatever. And so probably like a few months ago, one of our chefs, I am Hmong, he for family meal he basically made Lecha because we had a bunch of scraps left over from braising the pork bones for our pork broth, right? And we had a bunch of zhongjua, and he just moho.
That's amazing. You're
and
so
all
lucky.
Our staff was like nonstop.
Because you know what's the closest to? Pot roast.
Absolutely.
It's like pot roast.
But man, the mustard green, your zhongjua
makes all the difference.
Yes, you need that. You need that bite to get the cut through that fat.
See, then it also reminds me of southern greens, collard greens, with the ham hocks, smoked ham hocks. But
you need the fat because the pork fat is the flavor.
Yes,
that's the flavor.
Yes,
and so it's not about making it like it's like I really like when I watch my mom make lecha, they'll cut all the prime cuts off and they'll use that for like lao or whatever, and then all the scrap pieces they just throw it in there. And that fat, like it was the way of saying, how do we extend this to the next? How do we keep extending this? Because it's like lemote, and they'll just bring in all these zhongjua, and it's like, whoa, we can do this and extend it. And again, it's something you put on the pot, to braise, and you can go what day all day, come
set
back,
it and forget it.
Yeah, set it and forget it, just like the infomercial.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's so amazing.
And then it's like ginger and lemongrass and salt. That's it.
You're making me hungry, man.
Dude. And so what we did was we did that over rice, and we roast some vegetables, some turnips or carrots, and then fried egg on top.
So
and
good.
then for us, what we do is we take some fried shallots and throw a bunch of fried shallots on there, and then boom.
I'm so hungry.
Yeah.
If you hear my stomach, you guys. I think about,
But we used to be like a very I was Samoa about it because it's like, how do you explain this? Because it's poor people food.
It is. But you know what, too? You just, as you're talking about that, it made me think of like a cookbook that I tried to illustrate a long time ago. I'm still working on it. About Hmong food. And one thing that I realized, and I was right, as I didn't realize it until I wrote it, that Hmong food is not glamorous. Hmong food is not glamorous because it's jungle food, right? And it's meant to feed masses. It's not like individual, and which it's amazing that you're able to incorporate, you know, the more of like a couture feeling to the
fancy bougie word. Couture. I've never heard our food described as couture.
Yeah, like more of a couture aspect to Hmong food and making it more presentable for the palate. You know, like I guess like the nut. People who's never tried it before, they'll relate it to the most, I guess, familiar thing that they have. Like Lecha is like pot roast, you know? Yeah. Like I worked at one of my corporate jobs, I worked with this white guy, Clark. We had nothing in common.
Yeah. We like Clark, right?
Yeah, I love Clark.
Okay, good. Okay, Clark, you're cool.
I couldn't find a way. He was my boss at one point, and I had no way of connecting with him. But what connected us was food. Talking about food, talking about pot roast, talking about all the things that are similar in different dishes that I would bring to work for potlucks. And I remember when I made kind of like I just rigged up like a peanut noodle dish.
Yeah, yeah.
And I remember he messaged me and he said, you know, through work email, and he was like, "See, can I get some noodles with my green onions and cilantro?"
Yeah. So, you know, when you said that, what ignited in me is this whole philosophy thing that we're kind of working through. And it's this idea that when people say, "Oh, the food you guys do is elevated Hmong food," I get really frustrated. You know how you get frustrated with art stuff? I get real frustrated. Hmong or Mika people who say that, I get frustrated. Because to call it elevated means that we disrespect everything that our moms, our grandmas, our fathers, our grandfathers have done, cooked for us. So then we are like, yeah, this is elevated. And what they did was, you know? So I think that we can do what we do because we build on the backs of these heroes and giants of our culture that we get to stand on their shoulders, right?
Yes.
So I don't use the word elevated. I use the word illuminate. We get to illuminate Hmong food.
Dang, you guys got away with words
like,
all the time. When I hear you speak, I'm always like, oh my gosh, where does this stuff come from?
Whatever. Anyway.
It's so inspirational.
And so when I think about it, I go, we get to illuminate Hmong food. Because the truth of the matter is this. And it's like exactly, like I think this is where we connect, right? Because you're talking about, you know, a Hmong woman's voice is snuffed out. It's like, you know, you know, and you get told to do all these things. Like as a girl, you're taught this is your place. You got to a point where you're like, okay, I respect that.
Yeah.
No, but I would also say is you respect that. You pay honor and homage to that.
Absolutely.
You respect that. But you're like, but how about this? I'm gonna try this way. You know, there's nothing about you that tells me where you're like, no, I don't want to do any of that because that's stupid. No,
no.
You do that as a mom, as a wife. You still do that because you love it. It comes out of a place of love for you.
It absolutely does.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, because you know what? No one, if you were to meet me like in a corporate job, corporate setting, you wouldn't think that I can get down and dirty. Tokai.
Yeah.
Tokai from start to finish. You know.
That's the like I'm like that's the wife test.
That's why when I heard Gia Vang talk about you know, Tomboa and stuff like that on the weekends. Yeah. Like she would go to like the most like
janky like farm. You literally I've been to one as a Hmong kid growing up. I've been to one where it's like they literally had a rope around the pig's neck and brought it out. And they walked the pig out to this field where there's like, and literally the farmer just took a gun.
The squealing. Yeah, oh goodness.
Yeah, he literally, no joke. And I still remember, I was like 7 or 8, and I firmly remember this. He just like walked him out there, and the pig just like looks at him with like cocky head, like, and he just like has, you know, he has the pistols, like, boom, yeah, and he just falls over and like, and I'm just like, oh, cool. And then he takes the tractor and drags it back, and then my uncles and my dad and them put it right on the table. Hot water on top. And then I grab my little thing and go, bakwa, like, you know, just get all that.
Did you guys torch the torch?
Yeah.
I hate that smell.
The skin.
I hate that smell.
Oh, it smells like money. And I still remember, I'm like, oh, this is just normal.
Yeah, it really is. Because it was a part of our upbringing.
Yeah.
You know, I was just telling your producer, Matt, about how I brought my kids to Longjiang.
Oh yeah, you got to take them there.
Yeah, I brought them there when they were little. They were toddlers, and they just were like holding each other's hands, like looking just wide-eyed, walking by.
We got to toughen them, see?
We do.
Yeah.
And at first, I even remember my mother-in-law was like just shocked that I would take them there, and I was like, oh no, it's cool, it's all good. That's that's where their food comes from.
Yeah.
And so I still actually have a picture of one of the last times my mom visited, and I brought my youngest son, Raven, there, and she was like, go help Nietai.
Yeah, go help grandma.
He goes and he's like plucking the chickens with her, and I just it melted my heart because I was like, you know what, that was us when we were little.
Yeah.
And like if he doesn't do this, he would never know where his food came from.
I think it's more important than that is where he comes from.
Yes.
Where he comes from.
Yes.
Because I think that's the big thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
We would both agree that there's just something about, how you were saying, when they take the torch and they torch the pig and get all the little hair off, there's a smell to it. You're like, oh, that smell. You can't describe that smell.
You really can't.
You got to be there. Mm-hmm. You got to be out on that farm. You got to be, like when we came back, we always had farm clothes or like, tuomboa or tonyu clothes.
The boots, the rain boots that came up here.
We had that, and it was like you put that, you take all that stuff off in the garage, and then you go and you shower, after you get done. That was our Saturday mornings.
Oh yeah, all day.
Right?
It's an all day event.
You get up at 5 a.m. and you go, and it's all day event. You get back at noon, 1, and literally they would take the ngai from there and they'll start cooking lunch with it.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Well, some of the people are still chopping it up on the wooden.
Yeah.
Lecha.
Yeah. And those are just like, right, you would agree with me. Those are just like, that's like a normal Saturday.
It really
but
is.
It's not a party Saturday. Party Saturdays when they do like 3 or 4 of them. And then all the uncles and the aunties come over and you set up the tent in the back. Right?
It's so bittersweet, because I don't miss those duties
but you miss those duties.
I do. Whenever I visit my parents and they do those things, I'm just like, oh my gosh, I miss this. Like the kids are unsupervised.
Yep.
They're running everywhere.
Yeah. And they all each have a can of soda and they're like just sugaring out right now.
Like just
and then
a little
the elders,
bit.
like the grandmas or the grandpas mostly, in the living room, and they have that and then on the coffee table is all the the fruits and all the hodea and all the little bottles of water,
bananas and oranges and apples,
and everyone sits. Your elders, they sit there and they talk about the war. They talk about the old times,
like who knew who, right?
Yep. And then all the young men are in the back, right? And Chuangai, Langai breaking it down, and all the aunties and the moms are in the kitchen area, and they're like doing the side dishes, the rice, everything, right? Everyone's doing their part, I
know. It's just like it's such a natural thing to do for everyone, like show up and like take part in it. Mm-hmm. They're not going to let you just sit there.
Yep, and that's so true. And here's the deal. The one thing I've learned with those situations is like you just roll up a sleeve and go. Like you don't ask, hey, what needs to be help?
Yeah.
You just hop in.
Yeah.
Yep.
You get yelled at.
Yeah.
It's like I think like whenever my mom's in that mode during these gatherings, all of my siblings, we have, agreed that the only thing in our mind is how not to piss mom off.
Yep. Like
really,
you better be like working.
You better
fast.
be doing something.
Yeah, your head's down and you're, yeah.
That's why like. Even like as we got older and my mom would like, she still yells at us like we're little kids during these times, and as soon as she walks in,
she's not yelling at you, she's encouraging you. Okay, it's encouraging.
I don't know.
When you're an adult, it's encouraging.
You can euphemize that, but I'm not.
And then as an adult, it's more like they're encouraging you. Why are you sitting?
We still get yelled at like little kids, and I love that. I actually enjoy that because it's
so weird, right?
It's so weird how you can still get scared of your mom.
Yeah,
you know.
My mom told me I think I was in college, or I made a joke about getting a tattoo, and she says like your skin is like God made your skin very beautiful, and if you were to put a tattoo on it, I will cut it off.
That's what my mom would
and
say
like in the nicest like almost like sociopathic voice that's so like tender and sweet, and I'm like, oh, and so that's why like everyone was like, dude, you're a cook. Like those cooks are all tatted up, like arms, and I'm like, I know I want it, but I'm still scared. My mom
said no.
Yeah, I'm like, she wouldn't sign the permission slip for the tattoo artist.
That is so funny.
I'm like, I'm a 38-year-old man. I do what I want, Mom. Okay, I'm so
Yeah,
sorry.
right.
Yeah, and my mom's like barely 5 feet tall, you know?
She's so sweet.
Yeah, I'm
She's
like,
so
I'm so
sweet.
sorry. I would never do it. And all my buddies like, dude, why don't you get one? I'm like, because my mom said I can't, guys. So I can't play. I have to go inside now. Mom said I have to go inside and wash the dishes.
So funny.
And it's like
gosh.
this thing where we're like, there's a part of our childhood where we're like, man, this sucks. But then there's a part where it's like, that's what made us us, right?
And I think about it now and I'm like, I'm so glad that we were raised the way that we were. I think it really has taught us to be humble. Sometimes to a fault, where you don't really believe in like yourself because you're like, oh, always doubting, like maybe this is not it, or like you got to do better, just do better, do better. But I think that that's part of being a parent too, is being able to break those cycles.
Yeah.
So how you talk about being scared of your mom because she's not a fan of tattoos on you. For me, I encourage my kids to express themselves. I encourage them to do everything that I didn't do as a child because I was raised differently. And that was all my parents ever knew. I don't blame them for that. That's all they ever knew. It's like being pure and keeping, like, the way you were born on this earth is the way you should leave, And for me, it was a struggle because, I grew up in such a very insular town. And, that was the only way. Like, I was even ashamed to tell people that I liked rock music. Because
how dare you?
I know.
How dare you see?
In high school, like I was listening to bands that I really enjoyed, but I felt like I didn't belong in that scene. Like I didn't have the right to like it because people might think, oh, why does she like that music? Like no one can relate to it.
Yeah.
Right. And so there are lots of things that I did that was not conventional. And I still call that, I would still label my parenting style that way. It's unconventional. I do carry a lot of what the principles of what my parents have taught me.
Absolutely. I was just going to say that.
Yeah, it's still, they're it's deep rooted.
Yeah.
It's visceral. You know, you can't leave it if you try. You really can't get rid of it. Yeah. And so, those things I still encourage and I still instill within my kids. But as far as like expression, like my oldest, she was only, I think maybe 15 when she wanted a nose piercing. I'm like, if you can come up with the money, I'll bring you there and I'll sign for it, Yeah. And that's not hurting anybody. That's her expressing herself, And so I would highly recommend everyone to, especially as parents, to kind of step back and think about why you say no to certain things, right? Why? What does it hurt? Is it just because you were raised that way and your parents told you couldn't do it? Or is it truly something that like you just are completely against, and then
progress. That's how we measure progress, right?
Yes.
We measure progress by understanding and holding on to the roots that makes us who we are, paying homage to the ones that have come before us. But then we say, okay, we're in a different spot now. There's a different culture. There's a different light of what we're doing, and then how do we then make progress to move forward, and
that's amazing, that's so amazing. And that's something that I wanted to something I thought about telling you, like right before we started. I was like, all your guests are like highly educated. They're like, amazing. They've gone through all these things, and here I am. I have no education really, because I was just such a rebel. I couldn't stand sitting in an institutionalized setting, learning the same thing as everyone else, but yet being, encouraged to be different. And I already know, like, okay, I am different. And the kind of art that I create, it comes from a very deep place. And I'm not discouraging people from going to school, but like, I just felt like, oh my God, I'm inadequate. Like, I'm not going to be.
I feel the same way. All my siblings have postgraduate degrees.
Yeah, all my siblings too.
Can I tell you one of the funniest stories is we were doing this documentary. There was this production crew. They did this whole documentary on like Hmong food, and it was a really cool show. They were from Singapore. It was like this big production company out from Southeast Asia, and they were traveling around the world looking for refugee cooks, like cooks who like are refugees in certain areas, like cooking food that's not from that area. That's super weird how they found us. But anyways, this was a few years ago, and they were at our house, filming. They traveled with us for like 3 days. Like they just followed us around. I mean, they were at our house filming, and the director came to my mom and said, I think she asked my mom like, "Hey, are you proud of Yea, like being a cook or whatever?" And my mom like barely understands English, so she goes, "Oh, all my children good." And I'm like, "What?" And my sister-in-law like starts to smirk, and she goes, "Oh, yeah, older brother have master degree. Yeah, sister have master degree. Yeah, other brother have master degree. Brother, other brother have master degree." And then it's like, and then the director goes, "Well, what about like and he's like, "Yeah, good cook." And I just like sat there and like, okay. And,
but see, I love that.
I know, and it's like I'm not making fun of my mom at all.
No,
it was
it's
just
so cute. I love it.
Okay, so you get what I'm saying, right? My sister-in-law is like crying, laughing at this moment, right? And she comes over to me and she like hugs me. She goes, "Yeah, mom loves you. They're really proud of you." I'm like, "You have to say that. You have to say that. I know it, And in that moment, I realized that it was this moment where my mom could just be like proud of all her kids, regardless of their path, regardless of the path they took. I love you because you're my kid. My mom and dad, they're all saying, "We love you because you're our son, because you're our daughter. You never had to do anything to be more than that. You never had to do anything to make me love you more. You never had to do anything that you can work your way out of my love." And I think that that's one of the great things one of the things that I keep very close to my heart. One of those great things where I'm like, yeah. And that's like the message I love talking to like young Hmong kids where they're like, "Well, my parents want me to do this," or my parents had this expectation. I'm like, if you really speak with your parents, they love you because they're your mom and dad. Like you're their son, you're their daughter.
Yeah, it's so deep rooted that we please our parents, no matter what. It's always like you don't want to disappoint them. You don't ever want to disappoint them. And so you do a lot of things in life with them in mind. Yeah. Right? Like you want to make sure that they're happy. You want to please them. And for me, as I was saying, I felt inadequate at some point. Like I don't have the education, I don't have the background, I didn't go to college. But I think what makes up for it within me, my own experiences, is passion. Yep. You can't stop passion. Yeah. Right? No matter what. Yeah. If you're passionate about something, you're going to pursue it and you're going to do something about it. Yeah. And I think that goes a longer way than a piece of paper for me anyway. Because it's just something that you can't take away from me. Yeah.
But I also say that your passion, and how we were talking about right in the beginning, is you trace it back, and that passion comes from your mom.
My mom.
Do you know what I'm saying?
And I think part of it, I think the community part comes from my dad, wanting to be a part of the community and wanting to serve the community with a gift or something that, I look at it kind of like a fortune teller or like a spiritual healer. It may not be as important of work being an artist, but
I think it's very important. I told you, you're a cornerstone to the Hmong people. I already told you that, okay?
I know. So yeah. Like, I don't know, sometimes I just feel like it's not as important as those other occupations, or things that people can offer. But what I can offer, I'd say, is a perspective. And I can produce things that no one else can because it's very personal to me. And it's also, like, for example, one of my goals, is to be able to manufacture on a large scale doll houses for Hmong kids. Because a Hmong house when you enter one. I want to be able to share that with the kids because when I was a kid, I didn't have any access to any of that.
Blonde, white dolls.
I think to this day, I still, like, even when I was a kid, I remember using, the little benches, the wooden benches on my, like, little kuteng that, imagine, like, building a dollhouse out of that, or crayon boxes or whatever I had laying around. And I'm like, I wish that I could pass this on to other kids. And I know that there are mothers, even my age or younger that have young kids that don't have access to any of that. And I think that's an advantage of being able to produce and create art.
I also think too that the one thing, and I still do this to myself, is I feel that I'm less than because I don't have the education. I don't have I barely graduated college, and I feel like I'm a little less than. But I also, the truth that I've been learning is that in our people group, in our Hmong community, it's never about one person going, oh, this job is better than that job. It is understanding that we all have different roles. All these jobs and whatever, like wherever path we're taking, they're all created equally, but they're just different in roles. And the moment we're able to accept that, then the moment we're going, hey, this is my role. I believe that all of us people, all humans, were created for community. And our whole life is actually trying to find the community that we can fit into.
Yes.
And that's for me, I've really learned that, wow, like what I love about being Hmong is community making. We're always community making.
Yes.
So you're telling me that, the first Hmong dude who learned how to speak English and know how to write, in English, and like, what is he better than the Hmong blacksmith who made knives, who made, who made utensils for farming and all that stuff? Is he better than that? Absolutely not.
No, it's as valuable.
Created different, the roles are different, but they're all equal.
Yes.
And the moment we can accept that and stop looking at others and goes, oh, well, I want to be like this guy. I want to be like this guy. Or that guy's job is better than mine. And it's just like, where is your path? And it took me a while to find mine, and I kind of in a way where you.
And then you just took off.
No, I don't know. I think I have a great group around me and a great, group.
Support system.
Yeah, support system like you have,
It doesn't come easy. You have to build it. And, even when people don't understand the work that you do, but they still support you, that's the key ingredient, I would say, to success.
Yeah.
And there will be times when you're not. There will be down times. There will be like times when you'll fall in hard times. You'll feel uninspired. But that's why you need that support, because you have to be able to build that community if there isn't one that you are welcomed in, or like you're just invited in. You just show up and you say, hey, this is the kind of community this is the kind of support I'm looking for. And so you build it. And that's, I think that not a lot of people have access to that, because for one, especially, when there are things that not a lot of people understand. Like even now, like my mom doesn't really understand what I do. She sees me on a lift, and her when she says this to me, it's a major compliment. When she sees me on like social media, up on the lift by myself painting, one of the first times she ever saw me do that, she said to me, "See, go everything crazy, Suna."
Why are you making everything crazy? Yeah, why are you so crazy? Yeah.
Why do you always do everything crazy?
Yeah.
And
you know how you should answer? Because I'm your daughter.
Yeah, I should.
Get it from you. Crazy knows crazy, Mom.
Yeah. Yes, that's right.
Just mic drop it in there.
Yes. Yeah. But it's those small moments, where like they don't outright, overtly compliment you, but when they do, it comes in the form of like food or or like almost like they're teasing you.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
So I think it's just different styles, different generation, different styles, right?
Definitely.
Because the way I talk to my kids, they're always telling me how old I am.
Yeah.
It's like, Mom, you're so old. Like, just stop it.
Yeah. And then you look at them and he goes, I brought you in this world. I can take you out too. Yes. I gave you life, kid.
Ask my son Raven.
Yeah.
Because like when he teases me about stuff, like he's only turning 12, but he's taller than I am now. And he would tease me, like I'd be cooking and he'd come and like, Mom, can you stand up? I'm already standing up. Then I would look at him like, you must not enjoy living.
Yeah. I gave you life and I know how to turn it off too.
You must not value your life.
Yeah. See, there was like all these questions I was going to
Yes.
ask, but I love our tangents. I love the way that, we that we talk to each other. I also think too that this is like one of those conversations where it's like actually just us like grabbing coffee or drinks together, and this is like kind of
Dogwood Cafe.
Yeah,
Dogwood
like
coffee.
at Dogwood. Yeah, remember we were just talking this, and we're like, wait, I think we had a meeting we were supposed to do.
Yeah, and then you're like, oh, crap, I got another meeting.
Yeah, I'm like, I gotta go. Sorry. But I think that what is incredible, and I've said this before, is I believe that you are one of the pillars of the Hmong community. And I'm not just talking about in Minneapolis, I'm talking about Hmong community in the world. And I do mean that as the internationally, because of the things you're doing, the legacy you're going to leave for your children, and kind of the echo of your life, of what you've been all your life's work. Every time you put up a new piece, every time you're doing a new piece, nobody knows this, but I screenshot it, send it, goes, I want to buy, how much?
Yes, I know.
I'm like, dibs.
Yes, I know.
And
that's, I appreciate you so much. Yeah, I'm so glad and so proud to call you my friend, because when I met you, I've seen how much growth, has come through you doing things, and you just expanding your network and bringing in people, and also just being very inclusive of everyone. And I really do appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you.
And thank you for having me.
And thanks to Nate for being a good dude. Great husband. Great father.
He's all right.
But see, thank you so much, man. I wish we had another hour of us just chilling and talking. So thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you.